Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Augusta Nadi, and I'm the head of strategic communications for Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency. Apologies, sincere apologies for starting this meeting. I think this is 12 minutes. This is 12 minutes past the hour that we're supposed to start for Anambra State Investment. So sorry about that. The TV was unmuted, so it was echoing. Now, like I said, my name is Augusta Nadi, and I'm the head of strategic comms for Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency, ANSIPA. Now, the agency, in partnership with the Ministry of Power and Water Resources and the Anambra State Power and Electricity Committee, has organized this webinar as part of the post-Anambra State Investment Summit events. Now, the aim is that this webinar can discuss the state's intentions towards achieving a sustainable energy future. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Engineer Julius Chukwuemeka. He is the Commissioner of the Anambra State Ministry of Power and Water Resources. We also have Mr. Chike Okonkwo, the Chairperson of the Anambra State Power and Electricity Committee. And of course, we have the MD, CEO of ANSIPA, Mr. Mark Okoye, and our distinguished panelists and other industry leaders. We believe that this conversation will provide valuable insights into how the state can best harness its potentials and strengthen private sector partnerships to achieve a sustainable energy future. But before we proceed, let's give order to what the honor is due and start with the national anthem. Can I confirm with the MD is here, Mr. Mark Okoye, for his welcome remarks? Hello, sir. Mr. Chike, could you hear me, please? Let me know if my network is giving issues.
Well, I can hear you, but we didn't hear the national anthem.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but we didn't hear the national anthem.
Sorry, sir. Could you repeat that?
We did not hear the national anthem.
Okay, because I think at some point nobody was hearing me anymore. I was just checking. I wasn't getting a response. Congo, can you hear me now? Hello? Can anybody hear me at all?
Yes, I can hear you, Augusta.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, please let's just take the national anthem again. So sorry about that. I don't know. I think my network is having issues.
Can you hear me, Augusta?
And I can hear you very clearly. Okay, since the anthem is giving issues, I don't want to keep people waiting. I'll just call on the Commissioner, Engineer Julius Chukwuemeka, for his brief presentation so we can move on because we're keeping people here. Mr. Commissioner, sir, are you ready?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. You can also share your screen if you have a presentation. Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see your screen. Yes, I can.
All right, thank you. I hope everybody here can hear me very well.
We believe so.
Okay, so thank you very much and welcome to this very important meeting. Of course, it is our expectation that at the end of this meeting, the points as per the partnership between the state and private sectors and every other person, how we can achieve the 247 will be achieved. So we shall be talking today on the topic, the energy for tomorrow, especially looking at how Anambra State has been doing in terms of getting on with the environmental sustainability and climate change goals as it concerns power generation in the state. Of course, we all know that electricity supply is pivotal to the delivery of the prosperous, livable, and smart mega Anambra, which is the dream of Mr. Governor. And reliable universal electricity access, is one of the key strategic objectives of this government. So we are working so hard to ensure that we avoid every possible emission of greenhouse gases and other forms of pollution in the state, while trying to give the Anambra power. Of course, our current landscape currently in Anambra, most people rely on the use of fossil fuel and of course the power from the grid, which is not sufficient. And TCN is actually managing the transmission lines in the state, while EEDC is handling the distribution around the state. At the moment, power generation in Anambra, in terms of in terms of IPP and others, stand at zero. But we are trying to explore the potentials that we have within the state to generate power, transmit that, and of course distribute to ensure that we achieve the objectives of Mr. Governor. I wouldn't like to bore you with the current transmission capacity of the state and where they are located, but it will also be good to mention that the state has the transmission capacity of about 376 megawatts with a potential to increase to 600. And you can actually see the locations where we have our transmission infrastructure and those ones that are ongoing. But it will also be important to mention that it seems the transmission stations we have are mostly aligned within the northern senatorial zone and the central. So although more efforts are being made to ensure that the south, especially with the ongoing construction at Umushu, that will get to stabilize bulk power around the southern senatorial zone. It will also be good to mention the Anambra's environmental sustainability goals. Of course, our ministry is committed to achieving environmental sustainable and, of course, reducing carbon footprint I've mentioned that before. Of course, that is evident in one of the disruptive changes we have done in the state. When we came in, of course, our street lights were being powered by generators, being powered by diesel. And then we look at the, of course, three key things, which are the issues around the cost of managing that. Of course, the issues around the compliance of that to the global trend on environment in achieving a clean and green Anambra, and of course, how sustainable that could be. And immediately the state migrated from the use of fossil fuel, that is the diesel, to generate power for our street lights, to the use of all-in-one solar. We have the state has about 25,000 solar lamps, and at the moment, about 17,000 have been converted. And before December, it is expected that we'll finish the conversion. But it will be good to mention that at the moment, no street lights powered by, no state-owned street light in Anambra is running on diesel. Any street light you see in Anambra today, they are all running on solar. Yeah, of course, we hope to utilize the mini and micro hydropower schemes and renewable energy to extend power to the rural and remote areas in the state. Of course, an MOU was signed during the summit. I think GVE, to give power to the hard-to-reach areas, the unserved communities in Anambra. So our focus is on clean, green generation, of energy in Anambra State. So it will be good to mention a few things that we've done. In the past 1 year, we've made progress. Of course, an MOU, because in Anambra, we want to draw the line of north shoring and not onshoring. Yeah, we understand that the state, with the new Electricity Amendment Act 2023, the state now has power to do everything. But we are approaching it from the point of north shore and not onshore. So we are working closely with EEDC, to achieve our goal. And earlier this year, an MOU was signed with EEDC, with the various components containing the duties of each of the parties, the state and then the EEDC, for us to achieve our dream of 247. Of course, various projects have been undertaken in enhancing environmental sustainability and clean energy in Anambra. I've mentioned the street light earlier. Of course, what we've achieved with what I mentioned earlier, we've saved costs, we've saved the environment, and all whatnot. So, of course, it would be good to mention that Anambra. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, because I don't know what is coming out in my screen.
We can't see the presentation anymore, but I think that after this meeting, we can just share the presentation to the attendees. So is that fine?
Yeah, I think that is fine.
Okay.
So that I can move, because I can actually, there is something is bringing out here. Okay, so Anambra.
Not a problem. So if we could just round up, so we move on to the panel discussion, because we started a bit late, so that we don't take too much time from the panel session.
Okay, thank you very much. So it will be good, because I know everybody here will be wanting to hear about how the state is positioning itself to harness the opportunities provided by the Nigeria Electricity Act 2023. So it will be good to mention that at the moment, working with the Power Committee and relevant arms of the government and the ministry, we are working to ensure that by the end of this month, we shall have our policy, on electricity, and then the bill sent to the State House of Assembly for them to pass it, and then Mr. Governor to sign it into law, so that the state can actually legislate, on its power. Our target is to create the Anambra State Electricity Regulatory Commission, that will be responsible for the management and control of electricity business in the state. And of course, to set up the Anambra State electricity market, that will be a one-stop shop for investors to go and deal with everything around power. So there are some activities which will be, sorry, I'm just trying to summarize this as possible.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, so our destination in Anambra is to, of course, achieve, we hope to see some independent power plants, in Anambra in no recent time. And then the potential feedstock for power plants with benefits from gas supply, embedded generation, transmission, load balancing, speed of project realization, and all whatnot. We also hope to see how the state will start using the compressed natural gas, which we already have a plant in Omasi, in Anambra, and then piped natural gas to generate power in Anambra. Of course, Anambra has a very huge potential in terms of the gas reserves that we have in Anambra, and we have potential for other sources of green energy, some other sources of renewable energy in the state. It is, of course, I believe all of us know that Anambra has a very huge population, second to Lagos in terms of the population density in the country. So it is our belief that over time, the West, which is currently a challenge in the state, will even become a source of power in Anambra, converting the West to biodiesel, which could be used to generate electricity. And we are surrounded by water. That means there is possibility of the use of hydro in Anambra State, and of course the solar and gas that I have mentioned. So it is our hope that by the end of this session, we'll have a lot in terms of having everything about the areas where all intending partners, I mean the private sectors, can partner with Anambra State for us to achieve Mr. Governor's dream of 24/7 affordable and clean power in Anambra. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate the summary, and we'll also appreciate if we could get the presentation to share with interested attendees after this webinar. Next on our agenda is the panel section proper, and I'm going to call on the moderator, that's the chairperson for Anambra State Power and Electricity Committee, Mr. Tupe Okonkwo. Hello, sir. Can you unmute? Mr. Commissioner, sir, could you stop sharing your screen?
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Thank you very much, Augusta. And thank you, Honorable Commissioner, for setting the stage. One of the Mr. Governor's goals in his development agenda is to implement a carefully crafted strategy to attain a sustainable energy future for Anambra State. The strategy encompasses the development of the significant proven gas reserves in Anambra State in order to drive his industrialization program. And key components of this program include attracting private sector participation to build up gas production and transportation infrastructure, the Honorable Commissioner mentioned CNG and also physical pipelines for transporting energy. So this is critical to the development agenda and industrialization program for the state, as well as critical to establishing a viable electricity market, especially on the backdrop of the Electricity Act of 2023, which was recently signed into law. As the Honorable Commissioner mentioned, we've actually gone quite far in establishing a roadmap, and we're currently in the final stages of publishing a very comprehensive electricity policy and a draft bill which will be passed to establish an Anambra State electricity market. So with this backdrop, I have the pleasure of welcoming our distinguished panelists to discuss the elements of our goal to achieving sustainable energy future in Anambra State. So I'd call on our panelists to introduce themselves, just 2 minutes, and then we can get straight to the discussion. So I'll start with Chidi Anyebu. 2 minutes introduction, your name and the company that you work for, you represent.
Good afternoon, everybody. Standing on our protocol, my name is Chidi Anyebu Jr. I am the managing director of Chisco Energy. We're a subsidiary under the Chisco group of companies, which include the popular Chisco Transport and Fulham Real Estate and others. I am here representing Chisco Energy. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Chidi. And next is Chinedu of OMA.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chinedu Ogwebu is my name. I'm the MD of OMA. OMA, we're an energy and mobility company. We were the first to launch, locally assembled natural gas vehicles. So we play in the automotive and then mobility space. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinedu. Next is GVE, Ifani.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ifani Orajaka. I'm the MD CEO of GVE Projects Limited. GVE is a leading renewable energy solution provider active in about 12 different states of the country, including Anambra. Thank you.
Thank you, Ifani. The next is Kunle Roberts.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kunle Roberts. I represent Frederick Group. It's an integrated.
We can hardly hear you, Kunle. Can you speak up?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay, that's better now.
Okay. My name is Kunle Roberts. I represent Frederick Group. It's an integrated energy group that has interest in downstream and now, of course, trying to build the pipeline building the pipeline to Anambra. Provide natural gas on the 153 kilometers natural gas pipeline, 18-inch, to supply 600 million scoff into Anambra.
Okay, thanks, Kunle, but you've got to speak up. I can hardly hear you. I'm not sure about the others. We've also have a representation from Powergas. Can we have the panelist from Powergas introduce himself, please? Keaton.
Good afternoon. I'm Ketan Saigal, Marketing Manager for Powergas. So basically, we supply compressed natural gas or CNG to a lot of companies in different parts of the country, including Anambra.
Thank you, Keaton. And finally, but not the least, we have a representation from EEDC.
Good afternoon, Chike. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Praveen Choragade, MD CEO for EEDC. EEDC being the distribution company for the entire state of Anambra. We also have a distribution franchisee license for 4 other states in the southeast region. But currently, we would be only primarily focusing on Anambra. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Praveen, and also thank you for the participants that we have online. So we'll get straight to the panel questions, and the first question would go to GVE, represented by Mr. Ifeanyi. As the Honorable Commissioner mentioned, and I also stated, one of the things that we're looking to do is to establish the Anambra State electricity market, and within that responsibility, we're looking to diversify our energy mix, largely because we would want to ensure affordable universal access to electricity, especially to underserved and served areas and unserved areas. So my question to you is, what do you see as the prerequisites necessary for renewable energy sources to be successfully integrated into our energy mix for supply of electricity through the existing distribution infrastructure? Ifeanyi? Ifeanyi, we can hear you. Did you get the question?
It seems he's trying to share his screen.
Ifeanyi, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can now.
Yeah,
Excellent.
okay.
So did you get the question?
Yeah, I got the question. Yeah, so basically, a state like Anambra, just like most of the southeastern states, are already privileged to have very high level of grid penetration, thankful to self-effort by high net worth individuals, communities, and efforts by the government as well. And that puts Anambra in a higher pedestal in actually achieving its energy supply and generation aspirations. So, but to but notwithstanding, that also puts Anambra in a sort of difficult position because of some of the available distributed renewable energy sources that are available. But the framework that is about the notion that is currently being adopted by the state to ensure and drive a collaborative effort among various stakeholders with the EDC at the center is a welcome development towards achieving that. But to ensure a facilitated and expedited process in that regard, there would be need to have enabling policies and framework in the state, in more specific terms, to have state laws on electricity and electrification that is both private sector friendly and ensuring investment recovery, while also ensuring the protection of the consumers. And this basically is not rocket science, because states like Plateau, Lagos, and more recently Enugu have been able to achieve that. And the country is also blessed with extensive public policy advisors like Clean Technology Hub and Next Year Power, who have helped these states I cited earlier to work with the respective government agencies and ministries to make this a reality. And once this is in place, in addition to having efficiency in land administration and processing, and also expediting the processing of things like right-of-way, building permits and the likes, it makes it very much friendly for private sector players like GVE to come invest in the state to help improve the electrification rate and electricity reliability of the state using both combination of captive and distributed power sources. And to further buttress, that is basically the essence of the core component of the MOU we recently signed with the Anambra State government through the facilitation of ANSIPA, the Power Committee, and the Ministry of Public Utilities to ensure that we not only talk about it, but walk the talk. And through that MOU, for starters, we are working on deploying approximately about 1 megawatts of solar hybrid that will provide clean and reliable energy access to over 6,000 households and businesses living in 11 communities in the Anambra West axis of the state. So I would stop for now.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insight. And actually, we're quite pleased that you're actually walking the talk and you have on ground at various stages investments in Anambra State for improving power generation and supply to unserved and underserved areas. I want to restate what we're doing to create an enabling environment and the appropriate policy and legal frameworks for private sector to participate in building out our electricity market. As the Honorable Commissioner mentioned, we do have a policy document to be published very soon. We're targeting to do that before the end of this month, and also to have the draft bill for the creation of the Anambra State electricity market forwarded to the House of Assembly for review and ultimately for passing into law. So we're pleased that you're already playing a significant role, and would welcome private sector to join us as we try to drive the program for industrialization and building out our electricity market. The second question would go to the gentleman, Mr. Kunle Roberts from Federal Power. The Honorable Commissioner also mentioned the push to build out gas production and transportation infrastructure in Anambra State. Perhaps we do know that the primary fuel source that we would use for power generation for utility scale plants will be natural gas. So we would like to know what you expect to do in our space, what your company is looking to do, and how you can support and invest in Anambra State to achieve the objective of achieving sustainable future for energy in Anambra State.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So basically, like I reiterated earlier, it's we are charged with building the 153 kilometers of natural gas pipeline, 24-inch, that we carry about 600 million SCOF for the first phase, all the way from into Anambra. And like I said earlier, we have already acquired our right-of-way to start construction by second quarter next year, like I said. But our right-of-way takes us through the Trunk A Road from Agbo, Asaba. We go through the River Niger, HDD, then to Onitsha, then Vaitinewi, then all the way to Oka. So I'd said, what we want to
what we need the state government to do for us, we also need to have a right of way to put our spur lines. But I mean, it's not in the immediate, to put our spur lines to be able to enhance and supply gas to any of the IPPs or any of the industrial park, you know, in all of those, your different various location. That's pretty much what it is for us, because I understand that there's some people that are looking at building petrochemical and fertilizer plants in Anambra, and we know that most the feedstock for these plants are methane, which we will be taking, which will be supplying into Anambra. So yes, there's a lot of gas that can come into Anambra. We just need the state, for instance, to sign. We need to sign MOUs with the states. And one of the things when we started our marketing, because I'd gone knocking on all the industries in Anambra, from Sin to Poco Bros and all of that in Onitsha. So one of the things we realize is that most people need the gas not for burning furnaces, they need it for electricity. So yes, that's where we come in from, where we can come in and then supply all the molecules you need. So the moment we can have the bulk pack of the total requirement of the volume the state needs, then the earlier we can start to make requests to get that volume of gas from Gas Aggregation Company of Nigeria, because now somewhat they seem to be apportioning gas to off-takers. So we can start now, and then hopefully we can get the gas across to Anambra as early as 2025, early 2025, after the construction of the pipeline.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kunle. I think one of the things that we mentioned earlier is the push by Mr. Governor to execute his industrialization program. And essentially, for us to be able to achieve that, we need companies such as yours to be able to provide the gas molecules that could be used for gas utilization projects and also for IPPs. I think one of the things that makes this, your project, very interesting is actually something that happened recently following the removal of fuel subsidy and the push to create cheaper transportation for Nigerians. And I think it provides a perfect segue to call on Omar and Chisco to talk about their program for converting CNG or rather diesel trucks to CNG. But they cannot do that unless they have gas transported either via physical pipelines, which is what you're doing, or via virtual pipelines using CNG or LNG. So thank you very much for that contribution. I'll call on Omar to provide us with some insight into what they can do to drive the utilization of gas. Obviously, everyone is aware that unless gas producers can confirm offtake of the gas produced, they can't actually invest in production of gas. So Omar, that's Mr. Chinedu. Perhaps you can tell us your plans to increase the utilization of gas in Anambra State, by so doing enable private sector participation in gas production and distribution.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chike. Like you said earlier, so this is, one of the challenges where you think about investment in gas. So there has to be a demand downstream before you get more investments upstream. So what we've done, it's about 2 years ago, even before the removal of subsidy, we've been advocating for switch to natural gas, because this is a resource that we're endowed with. We are top #1 in Africa in terms of gas reserves. So this is something that we should be utilizing already. So we launched the natural gas powered buses initially. And We've seen very good feedback from operators, from businesses, from transporters that have, started using these buses. What we're also doing, to increase the utilization is that later on this year or early next year, we'll add trucks, so prime movers. So I mean, trucks either moving even the molecules, right, or trucks for other purposes, so that will drive utilization of gas for logistics, for that's in the mobility space. That will add to the demand or the supply for gas, like my friend Kunle was saying, because that demand has to be established before, the pipelines and all that go up. So from our side, this is what we've been doing. And then just to quickly mention as well, right after the summit, we did a groundbreaking for a much bigger assembly plant. And in that plant, we're also including a public-facing LCNG station. So because we also realized that without the stations, all across the state, there will be, how I put it, little uptake. So that will be coming up sometime in March. But you see, we can't do it alone. So we need more stations. We need more people to have these stations all around, because CNG, for example, saves you more than 80% compared to diesel or petrol prices. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chinedu. I also want to point out there's a comment that Kunle made earlier on, and this is about aggregating demand to enable them, finalize their investment in the pipeline construction. We have ANSIPA. ANSIPA is actually a one-stop shop for private sector investment into Anambra State. And I think based on what you've just said, we're going to try to work with ANSIPA to see how we can have some sort of a town hall meeting or some sort of meeting where we can attract people that have demand for gas, either for gas utilization projects or for use in generating electricity. And I think that would help the likes of Kunle Roberts or any other person who might be interested in supplying molecules to OMA and potential IPPs in the state. So definitely, we're going to work with ANSIPA to see how we can do that. I'm glad OMA has actually taken a step forward to commission a bigger plant. We do expect additional interest in creating points where CNG can actually be supplied to customers or vehicle users who have large fleets of trucks to reduce their cost of running their fleet. Ultimately, again, if you remember, the theme of this session is actually achieving a sustainable energy future for the state, and it cuts across different spheres of life. So thank you very much for that contribution. I would also ask Chisco, Chidi, to also make a comment along the same lines.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chike. Yeah, just to give a brief history. Obviously, we are our main subsidiary in the Chisco Group is Chisco Transport, which has over 1,000 vehicles spread across the country, mixed between buses and trucks. And based on our new strategic direction on how we fuel those vehicles, we are converting all of them to gas. But what has normally been the deterrent for us making that decision was always a lack of infrastructure to be able to get the fueling to power our buses and our generators and them. So we also decided through our oil and gas subsidiary to now expand our retail filling stations to also include CNG. Although we are going nationwide, we would obviously put a significant amount of our stations will be in the east and will be fitted with CNG. So obviously after this, after the summit, we've been discussing with people who will also be looking for support in making sure that we achieve all that. In the aspect of reach. This should help people to be able to now have the CNG closer to them so that it can help with penetration, as well as also support our fleet in our nationwide movement for our customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chidi. I think quite a number of our audience may be interested in knowing how safe it would be to use CNG in vehicles. Perhaps yourself and Chinedu can throw some light in terms of the safety of using gas as against using fuels as diesel or petrol. So Chidi, perhaps you go first. Safety.
With regards to safety, it's CNG, that's where CNG safety comes in. CNG is a preferred gas, even though the LPG that is already available is more energy dense, but the CNG, the safety feature of it is that it doesn't fall to the ground. So if there's any if there's any leak after all other safety apparatus has been added to it, it evaporates into the air, so you don't have any situation of a blow up or fire that does that kind of thing. But as we are where we are in the industry, the safety apparatuses on them are top notch, and the safety shouldn't be a problem. Although when it does now happen is now where we have the added advantage of it being a very, very light gas that can evaporate immediately. Thank you.
Chinedu, any points on safety before we go into the next question?
Exactly. Just to add to what Chia said, the CNG is very light, so easily disperses into the air. Secondly, it's very difficult to have, in fact, ignition naturally because the concentration of gas that you require for that to happen. And then, CNG ignites, at significantly higher temperature than petrol, for example. So point is that this gas is very, very safe. And something very important as well is CNG or natural gas in general. It's very, very mature technology. So the vehicles that we produce are already fitted out with safety features. The tank itself is bulletproof, right? So point is, it's technology that has been adopted in India, parts of Asia and Europe. So it's very, very safe.
Thank you very much. I think that obviously we've talked about how to get the gas molecules to potential IPPs and to businesses such as yours and Chidi's. I think I'd like to talk about, and this is through physical pipelines. Where there are no physical pipelines, we obviously would like to look at alternatives. And I think I'd like to call on the power gas representative to give us an idea of what they can do to help us in the interim to get gas molecules to locations where we don't have physical pipelines, but we need to use gas. So Keaton.
Good afternoon. Basically, we take the gas molecules to the customer using 40-feet skids. And not only that, I've not mentioned earlier, but we also are our sister concern is clean energy. So in Nigeria, we have a lot of power plants that we have already put up, especially for companies like 7-Up, Enugu, and NBC, and British American Tobacco and all. So power gas, yes, we can bring the molecules to you. And the other thing we can do is also give you a complete solution where we can supply the generator as well. Now we are also going a step further where we have put up CNG stations for companies like 7-Up, Enugu, NBC, 7-Up, ABBA, and all that. So what these stations do is while they're using the gas for their generator, They also use the gas for their vehicles, making their transport much cheaper. So, so these are the three things we can do: bring the gas to you, give you a complete energy solution using our generators, and at the same time set up the NGV stations for you, where like we've already done in 7-Up Enugu, 7-Up Aba, NBC, and then we've got quite a few more that we're doing right now.
Okay, I think one thing perhaps our audience would also want to know, and I would be interested as well, is generating power using CNG. How comparable is that to generating power using diesel, or generating power or getting power from the national grid? Is this something that you feel we should incorporate in our strategy in terms of building out or increasing the quantum of power coming into Anambra State?
The thing is, at this moment, other than diesel, the only other solution Anambra State has to get gas is CNG or LNG. I know there's a lot of discussion Mr. Kunle Roberts has had regarding the pipeline. But yes, until we get the pipeline, then at this moment, the easiest way to get the molecules into Anambra is through through CNG. And CNG is a very, very safe gas. It's not at all inflammable, like all my colleagues have mentioned. To inflame CNG is very difficult. So at this moment, that's the best thing you can use for your power generation. And it's not that, I mean, a lot of companies in Anambra are already using the gas for power generation.
Okay, I mean, that's good to know. Clearly, in building out our policy, we recognize that there will be some lead time before we can get physical pipelines to locations where IPPs are going to be sited. So I think clearly we've recognized that it's important to engage companies such as yours that have either CNG gas supply infrastructure or LNG gas supply infrastructure. So thanks a lot for that. I also want to point out to our audience, if you have questions, please feel free to post them and we'll definitely attend to them. Now, we've talked about increasing the quantum of electricity that we get into Anambra State. Honorable Commissioner mentioned that at the moment, we don't have any generation capacity in Anambra State, and we would like to do that because we do have a deficit coming from the national grid. So I would like to call on EDC to tell us how they envisage engaging with IPPs and what they feel might be required to be put in place by the Anambra State government through its electricity market. So I'd like to call on Mr. Praveen to give us some insight into what they are doing at EDC in anticipation of a new market in Anambra State.
Yeah, thank you, Chike. And again, good afternoon to everybody. In as far as the question that you asked us, it is actually pertinent to note that EDC is the distribution company in Anambra. And therefore, since the last 1.5 years, since we started working with the Anambra State government to attain the state's vision of reliable and sustainable power electricity development, we have embarked ourselves on a strategic transformation roadmap and a journey to achieve 24/7 power supply, as well as sustainable, commercially sustainable business for the electricity markets in Anambra. So to that extent, we have articulated a roadmap for development. And as rightly pointed out by you and also by Commissioner initially, that currently the situation in Anambra is a power deficit from a generation perspective that we are facing as a situation. The second element of this is also the plan to take the electricity distribution to a level where we are able to sustainably distribute power to every citizen in the state of Anambra for its various types of uses, whether it is industrial, commercial, residential, or otherwise. So to that effect, we have articulated what we need to do in terms of strengthening the network to ensure that we are able to dispatch more power to the end customer, increase our outreach to reach the last customer in the unserved and marginally served areas. But most importantly, our focus is to ensure that we move on this trajectory on a commercially sustainable roadmap. Our efforts are therefore to strengthen the network by increasing the investments that are required for the improvement in the network, particularly for the commercial sustainability and viability of the distribution as a business, to invest in meters, because we find that the metering penetration is something that is very, very important to ensure the commercial viability, sustainability, and growth moving forward as a business. So these are the areas where we are focusing our efforts on, so that we are able to attract investments into network development, automation, meters, metering technologies, new technologies, SCADA, so on and so forth, so that we can actually pump in or get into our network the additional power that the state needs. Which means that our focus would also be to ensure that whatever gas-based generation that is available and is a viable commercial proposition, we would encourage and participate in that, so that we are able to make use of the additional generation facility in the IPP domain, the renewable domain, or otherwise from external sources that we can bring into Anambra. In addition, upgrade the sub-transmission networks to take us to that level where we can bring in more power into the network. So this is in brief our roadmap for enhancing the power supply and becoming a sustainable distribution company to incorporate the additional embedded generation from any sources, mini, micro, hydro, mini, micro, or gas-based distributed generation, including megawatt scale renewables, solar, as well as rooftops. So this is our overall roadmap for Anambra as a state.
Thank you very much, Praveen. I must restate we see EDC as a very strategic partner. And this actually resulted in the execution of a strategic partnership agreement with EDC, I think sometime early this year. So we're going to be working with EDC to implement their roadmap. Like pointed out, Praveen pointed out, there has to be a lot of investment going into strengthening their distribution infrastructure, but more importantly, also rolling out meters. It is our desire in the state to strengthen and make viable the electricity supply value chain in the state. And the reason behind that is because it's going to be focused around private sector investment. And nobody would want to invest in power unless they're sure that they will get the required rate of return on their investment and they can get their money back. So it's critical that we work with EDC to strengthen their distribution network and also ensure that collection efficiency is actually improved. So I'm delighted with your confirmation that there will definitely be going into a lot of investment will go into building out and strengthening your distribution network. Now, potential investors will be looking at doing or developing IPPs. There's no gainsaying the fact that we do have a deficit of power, electricity coming from the national grid. So what do you have in place in terms of possibly executing power purchase agreements with prospective IPPs looking to set up generation plants in Anambra State? Again, the question goes to EDC.
Thank you, Chairman Chike. As outlined by the Commissioner during the initial introductory part, we are all aware that as one of the important NESI members, we are also actively engaged in the transition that is happening in the electricity sector as an outcome of inclusion of electricity as a concurrent subject in Nigeria in the form of the Electricity Act and the changes thereof. We have taken that into cognizance, and therefore it is important that we align ourselves with the transition roadmap that is being developed for the Anambra state. Therefore, from that perspective, what is essentially required for us to be guided is the national electricity policy, which you have rightly said is under formulation, in which we are also supporting it in a manner it will become the most respected document for the strategic growth of the Anambra state electricity sector as an Anambra state electricity policy. Associated with it is the element of market development of the market and the respective entities who would transact in that market to be able to achieve our mission as stated in the policy document and the vision document. This requires a whole lot of effort on the part of creating regulations, and I'm really happy to note what Commissioner and you in the initial part of the introduction highlighted, that the Anambra State Electricity Regulatory Commission is something which is in the offing and in the pipeline. Also, in part of the regulation is putting in place appropriate regulations for the commercial transactions of PPAs or whatever they might be required for electricity transactions between the entities of the Anambra state or from outside of the Anambra state. So we are all aware of it, and we are readying ourselves with respect to how can we put together through a regulated Anambra state market the necessary transaction instruments like PPAs that you said with the IPPs. So that is something that we are actively looking forward for. This would require regulations for determination of tariff. This would also require regulations for the renewables to be transacted bilaterally between or bidirectionally as each of the consumer, if he is a rooftop solar owner, becomes a generator in himself or herself, thereby requiring an appropriate regulation for that transaction which happens bilaterally for feed-in tariff and things like that. So we are actively looking forward for all those new developments, new regulations that would enable this to happen through the PPAs that we would sign off. But currently, as of now, even today, we are actively trying to enable additional electricity through the existing framework that exists at NERC to be promoting and responding to the embedded energy generators who come up with a proposal for us. Currently, I may like to share with the audience and also all the panelists is that we are working on a waste to energy generation as an embedded generation in the state of Anambra. Similarly, we are working on a few off-grid and on-grid renewable solar solutions. But this will significantly take a northward trajectory in terms of progress. As soon as we have the regulations and the legislations in place for enabling these to happen within the state of Anambra, including the investments that need to go into it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Praveen. I must mention that our policies soon to be published will be very private sector centric. So we're taking steps that would ensure that private sector will be comfortable in investing in Anambra State. For example, we have in place arrangements to conduct an integrated resource plan. And this would enable a better understanding of the demand for electricity and the supply options available, as well as the fuel options. We expect at the end of that integrated resource planning exercise, the development of a gas policy, which is going to be critical to efforts to develop gas production and distribution infrastructure, transportation infrastructure in the state. Also, obviously, it would also lead to the finalization of the electricity policy, as already mentioned. I think we already have well-established and proven agency, ANSIPA. So in terms of working with private sector on potential opportunities for investment across the value chain for electricity supply, we already have an established medium for engaging with the state. So ANSIPA will continue to remain the primary point. I think efforts have also, or points have been made about access to a right of way, points have been made about availability of land for developing various projects. All these can be done through ANSIPA. You don't necessarily have to go to the Ministry of Lands or the Ministry of Environment. You made mention of waste to power. So all these things are coordinated through ANSIPA. I think at this juncture, I want to find out if we have questions from the audience to the panelists. Augusta, how do we confirm that?
Can you hear me? Yes, so there are 3 questions from attendees right now. Would you like me to read them, or can you see it's in the Q&A section? Hello, sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, Augusta, is like Chike just left here. Okay, so I believe you'll be trying to come back.
Okay, so while he's doing that, can I confirm if the other panelists are able to see the questions in the Q&A section? Mr. Chinedu, please, are you seeing the questions?
Yes, I can see the question, yeah.
Okay, so maybe when the moderator comes, or let's just see if we can answer at least the first one, because it's directed to Mr. Kunle. Mr. Kunle, the question is, does the gas Mr. Kunle mentioned comes from the Anambra deposit? Because when he mentioned the right of way, he mentioned places like Abo, Asaba, then to Olichan, so Oka. I was thinking Anambra has a good deposit of natural gases. Why are we not getting a gas plant or stations here in Anambra State? I think that question is for the MD of Federal Oil and Gas.
You want me to respond now?
Yes, while Mr. Chike is still trying to get his network.
Okay, so the beauty about the gas we're bringing from Anambra, from Agbo, is that NNPC has a huge gas processing plant that's already been established in somewhere called Oben in Edo State. Now, so you have various fields. There's a gas gathering point that you have various fields, about 20, 30 gas fields, pumping their gas to that, their wet gas to that gas gathering point. So what happens is that you are sure to get at least, because it's the same Oben that's supplying the Ajaokuta Oben, is also the same one doing the Ajaokuta Geregu and the Ajaokuta, the Oben Obajana. Now, what happened? What the advantage of this is that you can have as much as 2 to 3 BCF of gas in those pipelines. So we are teeing off of those pipelines. I'm aware of the Orient. I have a fair knowledge of the Orient fields in Anambra. So most of this gas field produce wet gas in isolations. And it is not proven that they can come, all of them put together can do as much as a 50 to 100 million SCOF. And you still need to, I think there's been an exploration over the years for the Orient. I don't know what the result has been. I don't think the result has been so good. So the advantage of this is that in one pipeline, I can give you 600 million SCOF. And then you can then distribute to wherever you want to distribute in Anambra State. So that's the beauty about the gas we're bringing to you. And the gas is already processed and is bone-dry gas. So bone-dry gas, you can use them for your petrochemical and your fertilizer plants. You can use them to burn furnaces for high iron extraction companies. So that's the advantage of getting all the gas in one place. So if with the gas fields, you have to do different explorations and then get a gas processing plant. That's what it is. That's the advantage of getting the pipeline from the pipe gas from Agbo.
Okay, I may have to also add some. Can I add something to that? I think the gentleman's question had to do with looking at exploiting the gas deposits proving gas deposits in Anambra State.
Yes.
Obviously, Mr. Kunle is currently able to get gas from Oben. Yes. But I think one of the things that will come out from our gas policy is that we'll be looking to see if we can attract investment to generate or to develop gas assets produce gas in Anambra State, and possibly instead of injecting from Oben, will inject directly from Anambra State into your pipelines.
Oh, that's for sure.
So until that is established, but that's the goal. I think that's what the gentleman is trying to confirm.
So
whether
it's
there are
very.
plans to do that.
I'll just answer the question along the line as we move on, and we see that we find that we have much more. We have a lot of more offtake for the project. The right of way under the gas code allows you to inject gas from any well once it's bone dry gas into the pipeline. Don't forget, the pipeline is a joint venture between Fradro and NNPC. It's jointly owned between NNPC and Fradro. It's not just Fradro's gas pipeline, because it was specially approved to be a trunk line for Anambra because of the HDD taking the pipeline through the River Niger. That's one of the reasons. That's why we scaled up to 24-inch to be able to take as much as 42 bar in volumes of gas into Anambra. Yes, it is possible to do exploration in one of those. As we go on and see that if the investment is going to be profitable, why not?
All right, thank you very much, Kunle.
Yes, we're actually looking at that. We also know about gas in Enugu and all of this bits of Eastern Nigeria, but Anambra specifically, there's a lot of gas fields in Anambra. So yes, we are looking at that too.
All right, thanks a lot, Kunle.
Yes.
Augusta, next question.
Next question is from Kelechi Nadi. Says CNG versus solar for companies and industries in Anambra State, which is cheaper? You hear me, sir?
Again?
First, so Kelechi wants to know if from CNG and solar for companies and industries in Anambra State, which is cheaper? That's the question.
Okay, I think I'll direct that to EDC, GVE actually, to GVE, Ifeanyi.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question, Mr. Nadi. So basically, I think one thing we firstly need to establish is the fact that just like the commissioner mentioned earlier, the power committee chairman alluded, and also the MD of EDC also pointed out, is in Anambra, we have a power generation and power supply deficit. To put that into proper context, EEDC gets an average of between 300 and 320 megawatt hours from the grid, based out of data from the system operator. And this is what they have available to share among the 5 southeastern states. And it implies Anambra gets an average of about 64 megawatts. And with a population of about 5.9 million people, it means Anambra is having about 93 kilowatt hours per capita consumption, which is way below the national average of 137, and also abysmal when you compare that to other countries in Africa, like South Africa and Ghana, who have 4,500 and 3,200 kilowatt hours energy per capita, respectively. And what I'm trying to buttress is the state has an energy supply crisis, and in a crisis situation, all hands actually need to be on deck. But to answer the question directly, both energy sources have been proven to have one of the most affordable, offer one of the most affordable means of meeting energy needs. And the good thing about that is the ease with which they can also be quickly deployed, unlike some of the other conventional power generation and technologies, which usually take a whole long time to deploy. And compared to other sources, both have proven to attain, especially solar, attain grid parity, and also in more commercial terms, you can only begin to give a fair comparison when other dynamics like the cost of capital, resource availability, and the likes put into better perspective. But notwithstanding, I would say both offer about the same level of affordability for the benefit of Anambrarians.
Thank you very much, Ifeanyi, for that answer.
Can I just add something to that?
Please go ahead.
See, the thing is, with solar, if you want to generate 1 megawatt of power, on rooftop mounted, you would need space of 6,500 cubic meters. Whereas on ground mounted, you would need 15,000 square meters. Now, for a 1 megawatt gas plant, you would only need space of around 1,000 square meters. So it also depends on the availability of space, when you're looking at solar and CNG. And then obviously your solar panels initially are very, very expensive. Although out in the years to run, their maintenance is almost negligible.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Keaton. Next question, please. I think we'll probably take just 3 more questions and then we can close out.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question, still from Kelechi Nadi. It says, what is the plan on integrating independent power providers with the distribution company?
I think EDC is best placed to answer that. Praveen, I know you have alluded to that before. Perhaps you can throw some more light on it. Praveen, are you still with us?
Thank you. Yeah, my mic was on mute, which I noticed just now. So, yes, as far as the integration with IPP is concerned, we are open to receiving power as an embedded generator. And as all of you would agree that this is dependent on the comparative power prices that we encounter while signing off such power purchase agreements. At the bottom of it is the fact that we are all aware that the grid power is the cheapest source of power for distribution to the customers, primarily because of the economies of scale that are achieved in getting grid power into the customers' sockets for their use. The other forms of electricity, which may come from gas sources as independent power generators or producers, may come from renewables, as earlier said by my co-panelists, in the form of solar PV. It may also come in the form of waste to heat to power. In many countries, that is also a very important source, which is tied up with the municipal waste, etc. And also highlighting the fact that a part of it is also conversion of the waste, primarily bio-waste, into biogas and then converting it into electricity. all these forms of electricity are available, and economies of scale are applicable on each of these sources of power. EEDC is open to receive all of them as embedded generators, so that as per the market rules, we are able to get that power on a commercially acceptable. Affordability is also an issue with the customers everywhere in the world, and also in Anambra particularly, which is also true throughout the country. So considering all these aspects, EEDC would be willing to take up any power source generated from any source as an embedded generator to meet the requirements of the customers in Anambra.
Thank you very much, Praveen. I think we'll take 2 more questions and then we can close out. Next question, please.
Hey, when are we expecting this comprehensive roadmap for power?
Okay, I'll take that question. Like I mentioned earlier, an honorable commissioner also mentioned that we're looking to have the electricity policy published by the end of this month. And I think that will set out, the basis for establishing the market. Subsequently, we will have the bill reviewed by the House of Assembly, passed, and then obviously written into law. I think with that in place, it will be clear what we intend to do. I also mentioned that we are going to conduct an integrated resource planning, and that would identify the deficits or the gaps that we see in the value chain. Elements of the roadmap have already been discussed. The EEDC representative, Praveen, mentioned aspects of strengthening the distribution network, rolling out meters, and obviously there's been mention of building out IPPs, either using gas pipelines, gas supply through pipelines, or gas supply through virtual pipelines, CNG, LNG. But the details of how we want to roll out the build out and the development of the electricity market in Anambra State will be clearly detailed in the policy document that we would publish towards the end of this month. I hope that answers that question.
Okay, great. So next question says, my name is Engineer Chibuzo Mbanefu from Shell. I'd like to know your concrete plans for power generation using CNG. Do you have any partnership with oil companies to supply gas for power generation?
Okay, I will answer that question, also making reference to contributions from power gas. Anambra State is not going to own any IPPs. I think the objective of what we're trying to do is to create an environment that private sector can actually participate. Private sector can actually participate in. So to that extent, we would expect prospective IPPs to engage directly with CNG suppliers or LNG suppliers for the supply of gas molecules for their plants. Our responsibility could also include working with ANSIPA, is to create a forum where prospective IPPs can engage with the likes of power gas. And if Shell chooses to play, I don't know whether Shell does have any CNG facility, but I do know that Shell could be supplying gas molecules to prospective or to CNG producers or LNG producers. And then they can then supply the gas using their transport system to prospective IPPs. I don't know, Keaton, do you have any comments along those lines as well?
Yeah, so basically, yes, we can supply gas, but And we can supply gas to oil companies as well. In fact, we are already talking to Shell for supply of gas to their pipeline in Aba. So maybe at a later stage, we can look at a number as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you very much. I think that's the last question we can take. Perhaps we can just take one more. Can we take the question from Chukwudi Ezenwokolo? The last question, please.
From Chukwudi says, can the EEDC representatives please give a more detailed explanation on the power capacity Anambra State consumes at the moment? And in the future, what is the estimation of the total energy Anambra State needs? As an investor in the solar system park, how do we ensure we sell our generated power to underserved areas outside the grid with EEDC equipment?
Praveen?
Currently, the Anambra State power capacity is about 300 plus in terms of megawatts capacity that the state can handle. We have an elaborate plan in place for the next 3 years, which will certainly be part of the Anambra resource planning map. We will also draw from that resource, which is actually coming out from a demand survey possibly. But our estimates are that for the state of Anambra in the next 5 years, the megawatt capacity that needs to be plugged into the Anambra state is of the order of about 500 to 600 megawatts additional to the current level, which stands at about 300 plus megawatts. The second part is related to the solar power systems. Now, solar power systems are, as we look at it, are both in terms of scale and in terms of size. We could broadly divide them into two parts. One would be a distributed generation, which would be rooftops, big garages, commercial establishments with larger roof areas, so on and so forth, which are always welcome, and we shall await the feed-in tariff, etc., which would be determined by the regulator as they move into the Anambra state. Nevertheless, at this stage, even at the NERC level, there are guidelines of solar microgrids and mini grids, which can be made use of. And as an isolated grid, mini grids, they can be taken up in unserved areas. But if there is a need for a grid-connected thing for solar in megawatt scale, then that is something that we'll need to look forward to as the policy develops within the state of Anambra for being able to do that.
Okay,
so
thank you very
that's
much.
the answer to the question that I can see.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
There is another question that I can see is also related to the question reads as, is metering all customers in Southeast as an agenda with a deadline for EEDC? What is that deadline? The simple one word answer to that is yes. We are on a roadmap of transformation to meter 100% of our customers in Anambra state to begin with in the next 3 years. And that is what we have built as a roadmap of Anambra in partnership with the Anambra state government in the MOU that we have signed off. In as far as the Southeast region is concerned, we are also deploying the same set of vision and missions actualization for the other states that we have currently supplying electricity to. So,
Okay. Thank you very
summarizing,
much.
both for Anambra as well as for the other states, it is 3 years as a deadline that we are targeting for this.
Thank you very much. I think that's all we have for today. We are well past the time scheduled for this session. I must extend my appreciation to the distinguished panelists and to our audience, and most especially to the ANSIPA team for putting together this session. I'd like to state that as a state, we are working towards establishing an Anambra State electricity market, not completely disconnected with the national grid, but definitely integrated with the national grid. But the plan ultimately is to ensure that we have sufficient supply of electricity into the state to enable us to achieve our developmental goals, in particular our industrialization program, and to ensure that the Anambra citizens have universal access to affordable electricity. It's also important to point out that we are looking to attract private sector participation in our efforts to build the market. So every effort to provide the enabling environment for that, we will put in place. We will still continue to work through ANSIPA, which is a one-stop shop for investment into Anambra State. So with that, ladies, gentlemen, distinguished panelists, I'd like to say our program comes to an end today, but be on the lookout on this space. We're going to publish our policy very soon, and the enabling law to create the market would also be in place very shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a wonderful closing remark. But just before we let you go, the ED the Executive Director of ANSIPA is standing in on behalf of MD. So he just wants to give an appreciation remark before we finally close. ED, please.
Thank you, Augusta. Well, on behalf of the MD, we want to thank every one of you, the chairman, the panelists, and the audience for making our time to be part of this vital webinar on energy for the state. We are grateful for the time. I'm sure many of us have learned one or two things. Myself, I've learned a lot. And I hope that when next we call, you will honor our invitation. We are grateful, and God bless. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.